Bose, the grand nephew of Mr. Netaji, and I request him to touch those points which the general public is not aware about the Netaji. Over to you, Mr. Chandra Bose. I am sorry that I am not introducing you in detail, that you can start yourself as we are short of time. Over to you, Mr. Chandra. Actually, I am of the opinion that we should give him a standing ovation as he has come along with his wife here, right from Calcutta.
Jai Hind. Please. I am really honored that I have been given this opportunity to say a few words about the liberator of India, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, and this opportunity has been given by none other than PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry. Have you ever thought what PhD stands for? Progress, harmony, and development. This is what we all want in 21st century India, and this is what Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose wanted when he fought the battle for India's freedom. Distinguished speakers on the dais, Sri Saurav Sanyalji, Secretary General of PHDCCI, Mr. B.K. Sabarwalji, who has already spoken at length about Subhash Chandra Bose and India's freedom struggle. Then we heard my aunt, Srimati Anita Bose Pfaff, recollecting the difficult days of the Second World War, when Germany was at war. She was brought up, she is Netaji's daughter, but she had a very difficult upbringing. Her mother, Emilie Schenkel, had to work as a secretary to bring up her daughter Anita. And today, Anita, we are very proud that she is a professor of econometrics at the Augsburg University in Germany. She is into helping the refugees who have come into Germany to settle down. She is a socio-political activist working in Germany, has her own position, apart, of course, for being Netaji's daughter. Pradeep Multani-ji is chairing this very important program, I would say, because this marks the beginning of the 125th year celebration, birthday celebration of Subhash Chandra Bose. Honorable Minister Sri G.K. Kishan Reddy would be joining us shortly. Then we have one of the most renowned economists in our country, who I have heard speaking on many forums. And he has joined us late, but nevertheless, he's joined us, Mr. Sanjeev Sanyal, Member Economic Advisory Council in the Prime Minister's Office. Distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, we meet here to celebrate Netaji's 125th birth anniversary year. I would, in brief, try to project what Subhash Chandra Bose stood for. There is a PowerPoint presentation, if that could be started. The presentation, of course, is a 45-minute presentation. I would not go through the entire slides, but I would touch upon some of them. See, the battle for India's freedom, according to me, started way back in 1857 with the Sepoy uprising of Mangal Pandey. Then we had revolutionaries like Khudiram Bose, Binoy Badol Dinesh, Shahid Bhagat Singh, who did not hesitate to sacrifice their lives by going to the gallows. Side by side, we had Mahatma Gandhi's non-violent movement, which also had its own impact on British imperialism. But today, we have come across British intelligence reports where we find certain secret documents, exchange of secret documents and letters from the British government in India to the British High Command in London. These documents very specifically state that the final onslaught on British imperialism was none other than the Battle of the Azadi Forge and the subsequent INA trials, which were held at the Red Fort in early 1946, completely destroyed the loyalty and allegiance of the British forces to the British High Command. This is the ultimate nail in the coffin on the British imperialist powers. Now you could say that I don't believe you. You don't have to believe me at all. Do you believe Field Marshal Auchinleck? Field Marshal Auchinleck was in charge of the British armed forces during the Second World War. Field Marshal Auchinleck has written a secret letter to his superior. That time it was Viceroy Wavell. And he writes to Viceroy Wavell that the loyalty and allegiance of the British forces cannot be trusted any further. Subhash Chandra Bose, when he was leading the Indian National Army, the 60,000 soldiers, when he was marching towards Imphal, we all know that famous tune. Even today, we get that excitement in our blood. Kadam kadam badhaye ja, khushi ke geet gaye ja, ye zindagi hai kaum ki, ye kaum pe lutaye ja. With this marching tune, 60,000 soldiers marched towards Moirang. And that historic occasion, 14th of April 1944, Colonel Shaukat Ali Malik of the Indian National Army defeated the British forces on Indian soil for the first time at Moirang and hoisted the Indian national flag. This history is not that well known. I have requested the Honorable Prime Minister, Sri Narendra Modi ji, that it is time that we write the true heroic battle of the Indian National Army, document it and make it a compulsory text in schools and colleges. I understand, I'm very happy to state that the NDA government has taken the initiative, and NCERT and Book Trust of India, who are entrusted in publishing textbooks for schools and colleges, have taken up this assignment. I'm sure that prior to 2024, the history of INA would be presented to the youth of our nation. Now, quickly, I would go through the slides. If I could control it, it would be easier if there is a control, or is he doing it from there? Well, the relevance of Subhash Chandra Bose in 21st century India. Next slide. Subhash is known as a deathless hero. I am not getting into the controversy that whether Subhash Chandra Bose perished in an air crash on the 18th of August 1945, because it is controversial. We are not yet sure about the mystery. But whether he died in 1945 is not the issue. How he lived for the nation, I think, is the issue for the youth of our country. He was in any case a deathless hero. So his death is of no consequence to the 135 crore youth population of India. Next. Next. Is there a control that I... No, if you can give me you don't have that. Okay. His early life, Sabharwalji has already touched upon. See, he had very good teachers. I think it is very important for an individual, for his personality to grow, build up, to have good tutors. Beni Madhav Das was his tutor when he started his journey in education. And he was greatly influenced by the teachings. Thank you. This one. Of Beni Madhav Das. Actually, it is projected there. You are not able to even see it.
We are right here.
Yeah?
It is here also.
Oh, yeah.
Also and here also.
Okay, okay, okay.
All people are able to watch it.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Subhash was a very spiritual person. Many of you might have known he was in search of a spiritual guru, and he found one who gave him the strength of character, one who made him struggle for India's freedom, was Swami Vivekananda. Subhash Bose was a staunch disciple of Swamiji, and if you later on notice when he built and enhanced the Indian National Army, the art of character building, the ideology of character building, he enforced in his Indian National Army. 60,000 soldiers who could march for one objective in mind, freedom for their motherland. These are basically his scholastic achievements. I wouldn't take too much time in this. You are all aware, people who have read about Subhash Bose's early life, his ICS examination that he qualified. But here I would like to clarify certain British records. We find that Subhash Bose actually stood first and not fourth. But Britishers realized that they cannot give the first position to a Bharatiya, to an Indian. So he was given the fourth position. But actually, if you would have divulged his actual marks, he probably would have stood first. More research has to be done on this, so I don't want to elaborate further. But here was a man who was brilliant. But why did he actually resign from ICS? You see, his father, my great-grandfather, Janakinath Bose, was very happy that Subhash could pass the ICS examination. You see, all parents and all fathers are very happy if their children do well. And ICS was the most revered service in those days. But Subhash decided to resign. He wrote a letter to his father, Janakinath, and stated that I cannot serve two masters. I have accepted one master, Bharat, my motherland. So a second master, the British Empire, I am not in a position to serve. Thereby, I have submitted my resignation. Janakinath Bose wasn't at all pleased. But there was one other person in our family who supported Subhash's move. That was my grandfather, Sarat Chandra Bose. Sarat Chandra Bose supported Subhash's move of resignation from the ICS and returning to India to fight for India's freedom. And since 1921, it was Sarat Chandra Bose who stood like a rock of Gibraltar along with his younger brother Subhash. And we all know the Bose brothers and the Indian independence movement. They wanted a united India. They wanted Purna Swaraj. Here, Sabharwalji has mentioned about Subhash Bose being the first Prime Minister of India. Yes, of course, Subhash Chandra Bose, I wish to clarify, was certainly the head of state and the first Prime Minister of united India. Mr. Nehru was also a first. I think we should also give due respect to Mr. Nehru. But Mr. Nehru was the first Prime Minister of divided dominion of India and not united India. This is history. I cannot change it. India became a republic only on the 26th of January 1950. Prior to that, India was holding a dominion status, and we failed to attain Purna Swaraj. All leaders, starting from Mahatma Gandhi, another stalwart, Deshbandhu Chittaranjan Das, Subhash Chandra Bose, Sarat Chandra Bose, all fought for Purna Swaraj. The Congress's entire movement was based on Purna Swaraj. But it is most unfortunate that we accepted dominion status on the 15th of August, 1945, and 2 dominions were born. That was the headlines in the paper. Anyway, India today is free. Subhash Bose wanted political, economic, and social freedom. We have attained political freedom, but I think we are still a far cry away from Subhash's dream of economic and social freedom. We are fighting today. Today, the youth of our nation, we have to fight for social equality. We have to fight the economic disparity that exists across the nation. And that would be really achieving Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose's dream. This is a business forum. This is a forum for social reconstruction. So we need to understand that Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose formed the first planning committee of India in 1938 when he was the Congress president. And he was so inclusive in his approach. There were political differences with Mr. Nehru, but he made Mr. Nehru the chairman of that planning committee so that we can all work together. But then you might say that Subhash Chandra Bose, he had to resign from the Congress presidency. Well, we are very lucky that Subhash Bose resigned, because if Subhash Bose would not have resigned, India would not have attained freedom on the 15th of August, 1947. Political differences was one of the reasons, but the main reason why Subhash Bose left the Congress and embarked on this perilous journey across Asia, Afghanistan, Russia, for this India's one only mission, India's freedom, we would not have seen freedom in 47. He could have settled matters. आजकल जो होता है ना राजनीति में, अरे आप समझौता कर लीजिए, समझौता करके आप सॉल्व कर लीजिए. He was a person who never compromised. He realized that if he continues in India, Congress will never be able to attain freedom for our nation. he realized to drive out the British, you need an armed struggle. And that is exactly why he went to Germany. He probably never liked Adolf Hitler. During the interaction when he had with Adolf Hitler in Berlin, do you know what he spoke to Hitler on his own terms. Those days, even Hitler's own people could not challenge him. Hitler would have just assassinated the person. But Adolf Hitler was told by Subhash Chandra Bose directly on his face that, Herr Hitler, you have no idea about India's rich heritage and culture. A lot of you may have read Mein Kampf. In Mein Kampf, Hitler has written derogatory remarks about Bharatiyas, about Indians. So Subhash Bose objected to that. He said, you please delete those paragraphs that you have written about India. To read and write about India, first you study the heritage and culture of India. Subhash Bose had the charisma to say that. Hitler did not help him much, but he did help him with the submarine. The submarine journey, 90-day submarine journey from Kiel to Madagascar would not have been possible without the assistance of Adolf Hitler. Now I will come back to the psychological impact that the INA had on the British armed forces. You see, Netaji realized very clearly, he was not an army man, but he studied international warfare, guerrilla warfare in depth. So when INA was marching towards Imphal, 60,000 soldiers cannot defeat an army of 25 lakh. The British forces were 25 lakh strong, but out of the 25 lakhs, only 40,000 were actual Britishers. The rest were all Bharatiyas, Indians. Netaji realized when the Bharatiya component of the British forces would see that you are fighting with your own brothers and sisters, there would be an emotional breakdown and they would revolt. That's exactly what happened. When the INA marched towards Moirang and the subsequent trials were held at the Red Fort, 3 officers of the Indian National Army were tried. One was a Muslim, Shahnawaz Khan. Second was a Hindu, Prem Kumar Saigal. And the third was a Sikh, Gurbakh Singh Dhillon. So when the trial was going on in the Red Fort, early 1946, उस टाइम में एक कहावत था, लाल किले से आए आवाज, धिलो, साइगल और शाहनवाज. You know, when this message was spread across the country, do you know, from Karachi to Mumbai, from Mumbai to Chennai, Chennai to Bengal, people came out on the roads with Subhash Chandra Bose's photograph and said, Jai Hind, across the country. That is the time the naval mutiny started in Mumbai port. 78 ships of the British Navy revolted against the empire. Do you know this story, this history has not been told. 78 ships, the Union Jack was brought down, and with our national anthem, the Indian flag was hoisted on 78 ships. But the sad story, which a lot of you have not known, 1944, 14th April, Shaukat Ali Malik of the Bahadur Brigade of the Indian National Army hoisted the flag. For 3 months, the Azadi government was in action in Nagaland and Manipur. On Indian soil, Azadi government actually governed. At that time, if the Congress leadership, you see, I cannot change history. I am not here to please anyone. I am not here to do politics. I am here to tell you the true history of the Indian National Army and its Supreme Commander, Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose. So I am here to tell you, that time message was sent. if the Congress leadership sitting in Delhi would have supported the Azadi government, Subhash Chandra Bose and the Indian National Army, the army would have marched on to Delhi in 1944 and hoisted the tricolor on Red Fort, and we would have attained Purna Swaraj, undivided, united India's freedom. We lost that opportunity. The army had to retreat, that is a fact. But today, when we talk about Subhash Bose, there are certain lessons to learn. See, he was the only leader who practiced what he preached. My aunt Anita Bose Fafet stated he was a devout Hindu. Late at night, he used to go to Dakshineshwar Kali temple and pray. He used to get immense strength, inner strength, by praying in front of Kali, Ma Kali. He used to be a follower and disciple of Swami Vivekananda and Ramakrishna Paramahans. But when it came to freedom, when it came to politics, religion did not matter. Caste, creed did not matter. The only nationalist and the only Indian till date who could unite Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Christians, Buddhists as one, as Bharatiyas. And that is the relevance of Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose in 21st century India. I would call upon the youth of our nation that if you want to really pay homage and respect to Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose, you must imbibe and practice his inclusive ideology. We are one. We respect all religions, but we are all Bharatiyas. Unless we follow that, we cannot keep India united. I have had many discussions with many senior leaders. I wouldn't like to mention names here. And I have stated that you cannot pay respect to Subhash Chandra Bose by inaugurating a museum. You cannot restrict Subhash Bose's gigantic personality within the four walls of a museum. You really cannot honor Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose by unveiling and erecting his statue. The only way you can honor this man is follow his inclusive ideology, who could unite all religions and all community and maintain communal harmony and peace. The nation cannot progress unless there is harmony. So I'm very happy that your name, PhD Chamber, there is harmony mentioned there. We must build India based on harmony. What was the motto of the INA? Itefaq, Itemat, Kurbani. I think that the time has come that youth of our nation, you see, we are on the threshold of retirement, but the youth has to come forward. And I think the principles of Swami Vivekananda, of character building, the principle and ideology of Subhash Chandra Bose, of uniting all communities, should take us forward to the 21st century. We should believe in modern science and technology. See, Swamiji was certainly a spiritual leader, but a lot of you have studied Swamiji's ideology and thinking. He believed in modern science and technology. I think the time has come that we think about our forefathers who could give us the strength to take India forward. Okay. Minister is also on the yeah, sure. So friends, it is really a happy occasion that I could interact with all of you, but we actually need a full day seminar to really talk about Subhash Chandra Bose and the man, what he stood for. I would come back again if you give me the opportunity to have a full seminar and discussion on Netaji's political activities, his economic thoughts. Sanjeev ji might also be able to throw some light there, and also his social reconstruction that he wanted. With these words, thank you. Jai Hind. Namaskar.